Every story has a genesis, a point of spontaneous existence where it becomes something greater than itself. This particular tale emerged from the shadows of a forgotten past, a tale that bore the imprint of an eerie legacy. It was part of a nondescript file, buried within the mountainous backlog of the Department of Geology. An artificial intelligence system known as Orogenesis.aic, a mechanical entity residing within the pulsing heart of Site 898, assumed the role of a digital Sherpa, guiding one through the labyrinthine annals of history. This was no ordinary file. It chronicled the anomalous happenings at a place known as the Red Brook Mine, a grim scar on the verdant hillside of Dutch Mountain, Pennsylvania. The Red Brook Mine, a gaping wound in the earth, was plagued by strange phenomena, a testimonial to the inexplicable. It was a tragically haunted place, where tools went missing, tunnels shifted form without reason, and vibrations echoed from deep within the bowels of the earth, despite an unsettling lack of seismic activity. Akin to a macabre canvas painted with an invisible hand, it was an unsettling mystery where the miners' toil produced minerals unidentifiable to human comprehension. And among the labyrinthine tunnels, elusive figures were rumored to wander, disappearing into the dark abyss as quickly as they emerged. The phrase that seemed to be woven into the fabric of these strange occurrences, an eerie refrain often quoted by the miners: "The brook runs red." In the year 1963, the mine's ever-deepening shaft had hit a depth of 170 meters. Simultaneously, the eerie phenomena began to emerge, revealing a menacing underbelly that existed beneath the mundane exterior. An investigation was launched, seeking answers in the twisted tunnels of the mine under the codename Red Canary. Leading this daring sleuthing effort was Dr. Julian Eden, an esteemed captain in the battle against geological mysteries. Their initial endeavor was a covert operation with a facade of legality, designed to infiltrate the headquarters of Summit Anthracite, the enigmatic company that owned the mine. But their march into the unknown was met with inexplicable emptiness. The headquarters was a hollow shell, stripped of its past life and scrubbed clean of any remnants from its operational days. All that Agent Rudy Weller and his team found was a scrap of a poster bearing the company's logo, a discarded relic of a past existence. The building was a ghostly tomb, echoing with the silence of its abandonment. There were no records, no traces left by the hurried departure of its occupants. It was as though the entire corporation had evaporated into thin air, leaving behind a chilling mystery that gripped the team tighter with every passing moment. With their initial approach leading to a dead end, the Red Canary team had no choice but to turn their attention to the ominous heart of the mystery, the haunted tunnels of the Red Brook Mine, buried deep within the ominous silhouette of Dutch Mountain. The story was far from over. It was merely the beginning of a descent into a world of darkness and unexplained phenomena. The 20th of May, 1966, dawned with the discovery of a clandestine mining camp residing in the shadow of the Red Brook Mine. It was a testament to human resilience, hastily erected yet equipped to house approximately 100 souls. An enigma cloaked in the rugged wilderness, it existed without the knowledge of the outside world, its birth neither authorized nor recorded. This anomaly coursed through the veins of the investigation team, reaching the heart of their operations, Dr. Eden, the command communication hub. As the news infiltrated his consciousness, he felt the familiar rush of adrenaline, a cocktail of excitement and fear that only the unknown could stir. As the members of Gamma 89, an elite team of agents, received their orders, a shroud of subterfuge slipped over them. Disguised as miners, they were to slip into the camp undetected, gathering intelligence from the periphery. Their task was twofold: to map the intricate veins of the mining camp and to catalog the equipment populating it. The camp, however, held its secrets tight. Yet amidst the mundane routine of manual labor, something extraordinary began to unfold. The miners, in their dogged pursuit for anthracite coal, were consistently unearthing petrified relics of a bygone era. Petrified wood, the whispers of ancient forests, was being exhumed from the depths of the earth. Fragments of journals and scraps of parchment salvaged from the miners and etching their thoughts fed the investigation. They served as windows into the mind of the miners, their words steadily painting a vivid narrative. On the 14th of May, 1963, a miner's entry read, "The day dawned amidst a drizzle, the fog veiling the imposing might of the mountain, lending it an ethereal charm. The beautiful vista, however, did little to alleviate the dread of venturing back into the abyss." A comrade mused about the ancient forests, now entombed in stone, their remains fueling the coal. His theory that the petrified wood they were finding could have once been towering trees left him thoughtful, pondering the reach of such flora. The miners' days followed a monotonous rhythm. In, out, repetitive and relentless. The grime seemed to seep into his very pores, the endless scouring of his skin becoming a ritual. The cool kiss of the fog on his face was a reprieve from the sweltering heat of the mine. Another entry, a letter addressed to an Abigail, expressed dissatisfaction with a recent change in foreman. But what caught the eye were the mentions of yellow birds, canaries, kept within the mine. They served a dual purpose: to detect the presence of lethal gases and to fill the grimy, laborious atmosphere with their melodious chirping. And then the unsettling. The miner described an incident involving dynamite, which led to an abnormal leakage in the mine. The water seeping through the ruptured wall held an eerie hue, a sickly red mirroring the brook outside the mine. An accompanying image of Foreman Keshner and another miner served as a haunting visual of the men spoken about in the recovered texts. Their faces bore the strain and weathering of their occupation, their hardened eyes reflecting a shared story of grueling labor and dark secrets. On the fourth day of the investigation, the once bustling, now eerily silent abode of the mine foreman, Theodore Keshner, was discovered. The structure sagged under the weight of countless winters, its age conspicuously contrasting with the relative youth of the surrounding company town. It seemed a relic from another era, a relic that might once have held crates rather than the hopes and fears of a human being. The exact moment in history it was transformed from a mere storage facility into a dwelling was shrouded in the fog of time, as was the question of whether such a transformation predated the construction of the other camps. Agent Rosa Pierce, a woman whose keen eyes had always found secrets the world tried to conceal, located several pieces of vital documentation in the depths of Keshner's residence. They were relics, too, the bones of the Red Brook Mine's history, bleached with age, and waiting to be assembled into a skeleton of the truth. She scanned them diligently before returning them to their resting places amid dust and fading wallpaper. Unearthed from the cobwebs of obscurity were the whispers of a major layoff in 1963. The mine's memory was etched onto yellowed paper, revealing a significant shift in upper management, a sudden pivot in the mine's direction. Curiously, these records sat in the lonely corners of Keshner's home, miles from where they should have been safely tucked away inside Summit Anthracite's main building. Among the scattered fragments of the past were certificates, reports of accidents birthed by the darkness of the mine, medical papers that held the echoes of miners' coughs, and faded photographs of those who dared to dig into the earth's skin. One such document, atramentous ink marring its surface, bore the seal of the Department of Internal Affairs and certified Keshner's competency as a foreman. Dated the 15th of August 1963, it credited him with practical experience in coal mining, a good moral character, and a forged signature. Another relic told the tale of a fatal accident that occurred within the mine's bowels. Penned by John Fulmer, it detailed a tragic series of detonations in the northeast tunnel of the Red Brook Mine on the 13th of January 1966. The horrifying incident claimed 3 lives, maimed 2 others, and swallowed a chunk of the mine itself. A crew of 5 was toiling to expand the tunnel, their pickaxes singing against the coal, when an unexpected blast shattered the silence. Prematurely ignited dynamite ripped through the tunnel, burying 3 miners under piles of earth and debris. Adding an insidious layer to the horror, one of the survivors, Carl Weist, claimed the involvement of a 6th unknown individual at the detonator. A medical report followed, bearing witness to the harsh reality of a miner's life. It narrated the suffering of Bill Edwards, whose symptoms of chest tightness, black phlegm, fever, cracked nails, and reddening of skin were inked on the paper. The diagnosis, black lung, was a haunting reminder of the silent, insidious enemy that lurked within the coal dust. And then there was the haunting request from a miner named Frank Rothings, asking for a few more canaries and new cages. The reason was chilling. The previous feathered sentinels, tasked with alerting the miners to the invisible menace of poisonous gas, had been regurgitating their bones, prompting a swift burial. This strange affliction suggested a malevolent force was at play in the mine, a force perhaps not of this world. Each document was a piece of a grim and intricate puzzle. As Rosa scanned them, she couldn't help but shudder, feeling the spectral touch of their secrets. However, unwavering, she was determined to piece them together and unearth the buried truth of Red Brook Mine. A ragged, worn-out letter sat on the desk, its edges crinkled and ink smudged from the touch of weary, coal-stained hands. It was from Theodore Keshner, a foreman from the Summit Anthracite, a front for the notorious group of interest Marshal Carter and Dark. The letter was written to an undisclosed recipient, a phantom figure pulling strings from a distance. "Your unseen presence is felt even here," Keshner had scrawled in his angular handwriting. "The coal is on its way. The locomotives, old iron beasts with their fiery hearts, will be chugging down the tracks by the time you read this. He spoke of the quality of the coal, the anthracite's unusual purity, and the dwindling supplies of bituminous. But there was more. Keshner's words danced around a hidden truth like a shadow on the wall. We send you wooden treasures too, from deep within the bowels of the land. Strange veins of unknown timber, coursing through the earth, unyielding to exhaustion, he wrote. The deeper they dug, the better quality of the wood they unearthed, shimmering with an inexplicable luster. Keshner's tone darkened when he spoke of the men under his command. One by one, they fall and vanish into the abyss, swallowed by the mountain's monstrous belly. They perish in cruel accidents, leaving only the echo of their screams and the distant wailing of their kin. If this continues, the brook will run red, and the shadows will be our only company. His words echoed a rise of uncertainty, a question lurking beneath the surface. Do you know what lurks beneath us? What secret we're unearthing? Because I don't. I don't know what we're searching for anymore, he confessed. Meanwhile, a separate document revealed a new perspective. Red Canary, an operative known for his analytical prowess, had initially dismissed the unusual occurrences as non-anomalous. He posited gas leaks or black lung as possible culprits behind the symptoms. Yet, he soon discarded those theories, unable to ignore the mounting evidence hinting at the unnatural. The involvement of Marshall, Carter, and Dark, known instigators of paranormal activities, along with inexplicable incidents, convinced even the skeptical Red Canary of the anomalies lurking beneath the Red Brook mine. Dr. Eden, a shrewd and seasoned scientist, gave her approval for an intervention. She commanded her operatives to prepare for the capture of Dutch Mountain. To further their understanding of the enigma, they called upon Agent Rudy Weller. His mission: infiltrate the mine, investigate, and report. Armed with little more than a body camera and an old lantern, Weller ventured into the dark maw of the mine on a dreary March day in 1966. His heavy boots squelched through the muddy floor, and the rainwater stained his coal-dusted coat. The flickering light from his lantern danced on the cave walls, falling upon the weary faces of the workers. They were just ordinary men, their hands calloused and bodies bending under the weight of their toil. He observed two miners chipping away at an unusual vein of wood that shimmered with sunset hues, a stark difference to the grim monochrome of the mine. They strained against the stubborn mineral, sweat pouring down their faces. Weller approached them, his curiosity piqued. "Is that petrified wood?" he asked, his eyes reflecting the peculiar colors. Milton, a burly miner, chuckled. "You bet." He heaved another blow towards the wall, wood chips raining down around him. The mystery deepened, the echo of Keshner's letter whirling in Rudy's mind, reminding him of the foreboding words. "Do you even know what we are digging for?" Agent Weller contemplated the revelation, his brow furrowing in the dim light of the mine. He had heard about it, but he had dismissed it as a rumor, a figment of drunken tales told over late-night whiskey. He had genuinely believed he had been assigned to a prosaic coal mine. The miner next to him waved a nonchalant hand, his calloused fingers caked in soot and grime. His companion, a sinewy figure silhouetted in the faint glow of the lantern, continued to methodically pick at the wall. "Oh, we still mine coal, all right," the first miner, Milton, replied in a tired voice. He spoke as though worn down by the years and the weight of the earth above him. "It's just that the foreman had us start mining this stuff too, a few years back. Said something about it being valuable, double duty on export." "Any idea what they're using it for?" Weller asked, his eyes never leaving the petrified wood, a bizarre anomaly amidst the expectedly monotonous terrain of coal and rock. "Above all our pay grades," Milton replied with a shrug, his broad shoulders rolling, the movement lost in his bulky miner's uniform. "If it's wood, I reckon they're building with it." Weller nodded, his gloved hand reaching down to pick up a chipped piece of the petrified wood. It felt oddly dense, its texture smooth against his coarse fingertips. It shimmered in the dim light, as if hiding a secret within its seemingly mundane form. With a swift movement, he slipped it into a pocket, its presence momentarily forgotten as he returned to the task at hand. Leaving the miners to their labor, Weller tipped his hard hat at them in a respectful goodbye before continuing his exploration. He took meticulous notes, mentally mapping out the labyrinthine network of tunnels, marking areas of structural integrity, identifying the locations of lifts, platforms, and mine carts. Occasionally, he pocketed various rock samples, their raw, crude forms serving as reminders of the mine's natural purpose. When he'd reached what seemed like the outskirts of the mine, he paused, leaning against an old, weather-beaten minecart to reassess his hand-drawn map. He couldn't shake a slight feeling of unease. like an itch at the back of his mind. Suddenly he noticed a hand resting on the cart. An unidentified figure stood against the tunnel wall, dressed in the familiar attire of a miner. Instinctively he jumped back, startled by the presence. "Hello?" he greeted cautiously, his voice echoing in the dimly lit tunnel. The figure exhaled, the sound a wet, breathy whistle. It didn't respond, making no effort to acknowledge Weller's presence. "You don't belong here," the figure finally said, his voice sounding as ancient as the depths they were encased in. "You're not one of the miners." Taken aback, Weller could only stutter, I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do," the figure retorted, a tone of bitterness creeping into his voice. A low chuckle echoed from him, a sound as chilling as the cold air in the mine. "You're not one of us, so that means interesting things." Before Weller could respond, he found himself looking over his shoulder. He jerked his head back towards the figure, caught off guard by the eeriness of the situation. The figure seemed to understand his apprehension. "Don't worry," he said, a chilling grin spreading across his face. "There's no one here to overhear us. Just us and the echoes." Weller couldn't hide his building tension. With bated breath, he asked the question that had been nagging at him. "Are you the one causing the anomalies here?" At this, the figure laughed, a horrible, repugnant sound. "Ha! If it were up to me, I'd have brought this mountain down while they all slept." Befuddled and on edge, Weller finally asked, "Then what are you?" "I am the foreman, not of those men, of course. I am the foreman of this mine, of what resides below." "So the mine's yours?" "No," the figure replied cryptically. "They might believe they own it, but it's far from mine to claim. I'm merely trying to chase them out before something worse than me crawls out of this trembling abyss." Weller listened, the unease settling into him like a stone. Keshner had kept a record, a litany of death and accidents, but nothing had changed. "Clearly, it's not working," he said. "People die, they hire new ones, and nothing changes." "Sickening, isn't it?" the figure spat out. "Those black market bastards will run this place red before they give up what they think they'll gain." Weller's mind whirled with questions, but one stood out. "You know about Marshall Carter and Dark?" "How could I not?" the figure replied, a note of disdain in his voice. "With that sniveling rat they put in charge." The words hung in the still, damp air of the mine like a specter. "Good riddance. You robbed his office blind." Then a chuckle, eerie and hollow, echoed through the darkness. Agent Weller, sitting alone in the iridescent gloom, felt a shiver creep up his spine. He let out a long exhalation, then reached into the pocket of his worn jeans, pulling out a piece of petrified wood he had discovered earlier. In the dull flicker of his lantern, the relic seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a relic of a time long gone. He turned it over in his hands, his eyes gleaning the intricacies of its structure. As he studied it, a question hung heavy on his mind. Why the hell are they here? What's so important about these petrified hunks when there's valuable coal lying around? An unknown voice answered his unspoken question. "Petrified tree," it said. With its answer, a veil of confusion draped itself over Agent Weller. He looked at the voice in the darkness, his forehead crinkling in an attempt to decipher the cryptic response. The voice continued, its tone condescending. "These ain't trees, kid. They're roots." The stunned silence filled the mine as Weller broke eye contact, his gaze returning to the piece of petrified wood. The weight of the revelation hung heavily on his shoulders. Time lost meaning in the subterranean abyss. A silent 10 seconds turned into what felt like an eternity. He slowly lifted his head, his body camera capturing the haunted look in his eyes. The recording ended, leaving behind an uncanny echo. Agent Weller left the mine several hours later, handing over his findings to Foundation operatives before joining MTF Gamma 89 in preparation for the impending intrusion. His chilling interaction with the voice in the dark became invaluable evidence for Red Canary. The Redbrook mine was falling into the Foundation's hands. On June 6, 1966, the mine was seized under the guise of a government shutdown. The majority of Summit Anthracite's employees were civilians, oblivious to the operation's true nature, and did not resist. The mining activity ceased, leaving behind an eerie silence. Those who had worked in the mine were administered amnestics, their memories of their employment since 1963 wiped clean. Foreman Keshner, confirmed as an MC&D operative, was taken into custody. The surrounding area of Dutch Mountain was secured, a precaution against potential retaliatory efforts. The investigation of Red Canary concluded, designating SCP-8987 based on the sufficient evidence gathered. The ominous nature of SCP-8987 became the focal point of covert operations in the Redbrook mine. Witness accounts of the inexplicable phenomena that had occurred within the mine from 1963 to 1966 were assumed to be factual, adding to the growing unease surrounding the operation. Even when documentation grew and theories began to form, one constant remained: the mystery of SCP-8987. As the summer of 1966 rolled on, the Foundation began construction of Site-898. Nestled within the coalbed swamp, at the base of Dutch Mountain, the location had been chosen for its proximity to the mine. Built over the original mine encampment left by Summit Anthracite, the once homely miners' housing was converted into dormitories for the staff. A stark reminder of the site's history. Dr. Julian Eden, head of the Department of Geology, was promoted to director of Site-898. Over the course of a month, the site grew into the Foundation's first geological research facility, operating under the guise of an environmental reclamation project. Once construction was complete, the study of SCP-8987 began anew. Under Director Eden's careful eye, operations within the mine resumed, albeit under the guidance of Foundation geologists. The discordant phenomena associated with SCP-8987 returned, each event seemingly connected with the depth of the excavation. Yet, as they delved deeper into the labyrinthine caves, a clear pattern remained elusive, adding another layer to SCP-8987's enigma. Chapter 8, the 24th of August 1966, shaped up to be a day of momentous significance in the exploration of SCP-8987. The narrative unfurls in the subterranean labyrinth, carved out of the solid earth, under the unerring supervision of Director Julian Eden. The hushed whispers of anticipation echoed through the gloomy tunnels, serving as the counterpoint to the persistent drilling that resonated ahead. Eden's hard hat, bearing the fixed camerawork's unblinking eye, bobbed in rhythm with his hurried stride. He palmed the incessantly beeping pager attached to his hip, a harsh reminder of the urgent summons that had pulled him away from his research. The tunnel ended in a flurry of activity, 6 individuals from MTF Gamma 89 working industriously. They were a dynamic blend of geologists, explosive experts, engineers, all tirelessly probing the enigmatic nature of SCP-8987, Eden's confidence boosted by the sight of the crew. There was Captain Lin, directing Agent Weller in the art of drilling, Joyce and Reed meticulously tracking the course of an intriguing vein of petrified wood, while Pierce and Bird stood watch, imperturbable sentinels in the bowels of the earth. A nod of acknowledgement passed between Eden and Agent Pierce, the latter's gaze momentarily diverted from her watch. In the face of her slight head jerk towards Captain Lin and Agent Weller, Eden's fingers tapped against his pager, an unspoken question hanging between them. Her response dipped the atmosphere in suspense. Their attempts at infiltration had found an echo, a suggestion of an open space lurking behind the stubborn stone barrier. Captain Lin had deemed the discovery important enough for Eden's presence, a detail that stirred a sense of cautious optimism in the director. The possibility of a hidden cavern could be the key insight they needed. Being guided by the intricate pattern of petrified roots, their expedition seemed to be on the right track. According to Reed, their consistency hinted at the existence of a focal point, potentially the center of SCP-8987's enigma. Backed by the collective nod of agreement spreading among the crew, Eden couldn't suppress his thrill. This could be the breakthrough they were striving for. The anticipation reached a fever pitch as Weller prepared the detonation, his hands steady despite the nerve-wracking situation. Eden, distanced from the commotion, watched the scene unfold with bated breath, the foreboding detonator a few feet away. Weller's nod towards Lin was the only precursory warning before the order for evacuation echoed through the tunnel. The cavern swallowed the detonation, its ensuing silence too profound to be disturbed by the settling dust. The darkness beyond the newly created gap in the wall seemed like an invitation, one that Eden and his team were eager to accept. Setting foot into the obscure space, the team members fumbled to adjust their lights, the lack of visibility hindering their exploration. As their gaze met the vast expanse of the cavern, a sense of awe washed over them. While their path ahead was strewn with evaporate deposits and outcrops of petrified wood, the cavern's size seemed beyond their initial estimation. The cautious descent into the cavern was marred by near mishaps, the slope proving deceitful to the unsuspecting. The team's adrenaline spiked when Joyce briefly lost his footing, saved in the nick of time by the fast-acting Pierce. A quick reminder to be wary of their steps sent a ripple of anxious laughter through the group. As the sound of dripping water serenaded their steady progress, an air of uncertainty hung over them. The sight of the petrified wood outcrops growing increasingly larger, casting foreboding shadows, struck a chord of unease in Eden. He could not shake off the sensation of their presence being watched, every echo amplifying his anxiety. The mounting tension reached its peak when Weller, squinting into the seemingly infinite darkness, murmured his suspicion of an unknown entity lurking ahead. As the crew pressed forward, Eden found himself repeatedly casting nervous glances around, his mind alive with possibilities of what lay ahead. The gloom devoured the boundaries of the cavern, gorging on the light Director Eden tried to push into its darkened maw. The stark nothingness held the essence of foreboding. Eden drew a quivering breath, each inhalation carrying a taste of dank soil, turning back to his expectant team. His pace quickened, gravitating towards the collective warmth and familiarity of his squad. The sudden halt in Agent Reed's motion was like a stone thrown into a still pond. A ripple of stillness washed over them, the silence punctuated by Reed's gasping breath. "Bring the lights to 12 o'clock, Reed rasped, his voice echoing in the black void around them. Captain Lin grumbled her disapproval, but complied along with the rest of the team. At the heart of the cavern, a monolith loomed. Their lights danced upon the colossal edifice, an ancient trunk of a tree, its girth an impressive 6 meters, with gnarled roots snaking from its base, as if attempting to claw into the stony floor. Eden found his gaze magnetically drawn upwards, his light scattering off the gnarled branches overhead. A delicate shimmer traced the leaves, casting ethereal reflections. The vast network of branches, adorned with luminescent crystals, cast an eerie shadow below. The ceiling of the cavern remained a mystery, hidden in the darkness. The team's best estimates wagered a towering height of at least 30 meters. A sudden crunch shattered the silence, yanking the group's attention towards Agent Weller. He had retreated a step, crushing a fallen twig underfoot, its crystal shards glittering wickedly. A graveyard of shattered branches and crystals littered the base of the tree. "Has it been damaged?" Eden pondered aloud, a chill of anticipation creeping down his spine. "Can't be dying. It's already dead," Agent Joyce murmured, his words echoing in the cavernous space. "Still damaged," Agent Pierce added, his voice a solemn whisper. Eden glanced over his shoulder at Pierce and Bird. "Get one of the floodlights," he instructed, his authoritative command echoing through the cavern. The two agents nodded without a word, their forms disappearing into the tunnel to fetch the equipment. When they returned, the floodlight, a hulking, cumbersome device, was positioned at the top of the slope. Agent Pierce worked on the device, sparking the large bulbs into life. Once activated, it emitted a blinding beam, piercing the gnawing darkness of the cavern. The majestic ceiling came into view, a chaotic dance of stalactites and tangled branches that stretched the entire length of the cavern. Crystals were strewn haphazardly across them, casting shifting patterns that dazzled and twinkled. "It's the size of a redwood," Agent Bird muttered in awe. "All the routes lead here," Agent Weller added, his voice hushed. A pause fell over the group, each member silently absorbing the grandeur of their discovery. "We need more equipment," Captain Lin finally broke the silence. "Measurements, analysis, a few more hands wouldn't hurt. Weller, you're with me. We're going to create a larger entrance." Weller simply nodded his agreement, his eyes remaining on the massive tree. "Yes, sir. Just mind the slope when you do," Eden warned. "We don't want to disturb our find." "We'll be careful," Lin assured him, before she and Weller departed, leaving the remainder of the team to further investigate SCP-8987. Eden turned back to the looming tree in the cavern's heart. "We should refrain from gathering samples yet. And don't touch anything," he instructed, his gut churning with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. Pierce gave a nonchalant shrug. "Don't have to tell me twice," he mumbled, his gaze locked onto the tree. Joyce, unable to contain his curiosity, prodded a broken piece of wood with his boot, earning a glare from Bird. He stepped back, eyes wide. "What do you reckon made them fall?" "I'm surprised they hung to begin with," Eden mused aloud, his gaze tracing the fossilized branches overhead. Their deliberations were interrupted by a radio call from Lin, notifying Eden of the impending detonation. The team turned towards the tunnel entrance, their hearts pounding in rhythm with Lin's echoey countdown. "Fire in the hole!" The thundering echo of Weller's warning bounced off the cavern walls. The detonation rocked the cavern, clouds of dust and debris erupting into the air, shaking the very bones of the earth. A deafening snap resounded through the cavern, more jarring than the detonation itself. Eden spun back towards SCP-8987 in time to witness a massive branch plummet to the ground, agonizingly close to where he stood. A shower of crystal shards fountained out from the impact, each piece glinting in the floodlight. A thick, viscous liquid, dark and ominously red, seeped from the splintered end of the fallen branch. The sight sent chills down their spines, the quiet dread confirmed by the terrified expressions mirrored on the faces of his team. "Damn it! The explosion! It was too much!" Agent Bird's words were cut short as they took in the tragic sight before them. The damage done to the SCP they still had so much to learn about. A frenzied whirl of motion filled the cavern as Lynn and Agent Weller stormed back into the dimly lit space, their analysis equipment clutched in anxious hands. With a brittle courage driving them, they registered the chilling transformation in the atmosphere. Weller's grip on his array of devices slackened, nearly slipping from his fingers at the sight of the disconcerting tableau before him. Eden, his voice as cold as the shadows clinging to the cave walls and twice as foreboding, shouted a frantic, "Get away from the tree! Now!" The command was punctuated by an eerie wheezing sound, heavy and sodden, like the breath of some unseen aquatic beast echoing off the cavern's damp walls, setting off a ripple of dread amongst the agents. Weller's head jerked up, his eyes wide and haunted, as the atmosphere grew heavy with an unseen menace. A cacophony of sounds, harsh and alien, filled the cavern. The sound of wood and stone being ground to dust, amplified by the enclosed space, sent everyone scrambling away from the anomalous tree, their hearts pounding in time with the violent symphony reverberating around them. A viscous liquid, dark as ink and just as inscrutable, flowed from the wounded tree. A spray of this ominous substance painted the cavern floor, narrowly missing Eden, who barely evaded the dark spray, his adrenaline-charged breaths resonating with the eerie wheezes filling the cave. Even as the expected deluge of flora was absent from SCP-8987, the chilling symphony of sounds amplified, underlain by an unnerving white noise hum, as if the tree itself pulsed with a malignant life force. Suddenly, Agent Reed's compass self-destructed. Its case split open, sending the delicate hands, the meticulous levels and gears tumbling into the darkness. The shattering glass echoed like the fatal strike of a grim symphony. Terrified, she discarded the shattered remnants. Eden's pager, too, succumbed to the invisible force plaguing their equipment. The trusty device crumbled into sand, its wires and screws spilling onto the cold cavern floor. His heart pounded as he watched it continue to disintegrate in the eerie, echoing darkness. The cavern's floodlight bulbs attracted the mysterious force. As if under an insidious spell, they fractured, sending a sharp crack slicing through the tension-filled silence. Their glow dimmed as the glass crumbled to sand. One by one, their headlamps followed suit, plunging the team into an abyss of darkness. An echoing thud broke the absolute silence as someone discarded their helmet in frustration. The cavern was swallowed by darkness, and the recording's visuals disappeared. A chilling, heavy silence then filled the recording. In the unsettling silence, Lynn's voice came through, strained and fraught with fear. "Sound off. We all alive?" One by one, the team affirmed their safety, including Eden, who somehow managed to stay unharmed in the unfolding mayhem. "Did that thing fry all our tech?" Lynn inquired, his voice echoing the confusion and trepidation of his team. Agent Pierce broke the silence, his voice heavy with cynicism. "Shit was shoddy to begin with. Open flames in a mine aren't smart, but I trust him more than I do any bulb." Anxiety clung in the air as Weller fumbled with an old lantern, igniting it amidst the darkness. The flickering firelight caught on their tense faces, their shadows dancing grotesquely on the cavern walls. Despite the degraded quality, the camera managed to capture the eerie scene. The team intently watched as Eden turned his gaze back towards the unseen SCP-8987, the dripping noise a grim reminder of its enigmatic presence. He muttered something that sent a shudder through the team. "So that's what has been causing this?" Agent Bird replied, a note of incredulousness edging her voice. "The tree gets shaken, the mine bleeds?" And Weller, grimacing, added, "I think it's been bleeding for a long time. MC&D were just twisting the knife in the wound when they took over." There was a resigned silence as Lynn murmured, "Blood from stone." There wasn't much left to say. The team moved towards the tunnel, their lantern light casting a feeble glow against the encroaching darkness. As they moved, both Weller and Eden glanced back, catching sight of a humanoid figure standing amidst the stalagmites, bathed in the faint, flickering light of their retreat. Upon their return, Eden received treatment for minor cuts, the only one to have sustained any physical injury in the ordeal. Plans for SCP-8987's containment were drafted immediately, and Site-898 was established, putting an end to the Red Brook Mine's operations as of June 6, 1966. The echo of pickaxes and heavy machinery had been replaced by an eerie silence, broken only by the whispering stir of unseen phenomena. The Red Brook Mine had once reverberated with the constant hum of activity, as diligent workers unearthed coal and minerals from the depths of Dutch Mountain, Pennsylvania. But those days were over. The ceaseless mining operations were silenced, replaced by an ominous statue of nature's erstwhile glory. A petrified tree of unclassified origin, designated SCP-8987, now stood in the mine's heart, its roots snaking through the bedrock, its branches stretching majestically across the chamber. A colossal symbol of nature's forgotten might, the tree trunk towered 6 meters in diameter, its branches reaching a peak height of 31 meters. The expansive branches occupied most of the chamber, a room within the guts of the mountain that spanned 41.8 meters in diameter, located approximately 250 meters beneath the surface. The tree, SCP-8987, was an anomaly far removed from the bustling society above. Yet, it was not forgotten. A team of Foundation field agents had been assigned to monitor the mine, now transformed into an isolated research site. Main points of entry had been sealed, converted into a facility dedicated to the surveillance of SCP-8987 and its inexplicable activation events. Containment strategies had been implemented with Scranton reality anchors, powerful devices designed to counteract the anomalies during these activation events. Yet their capacity was only a mitigating measure, their efficacy still to be fully realized. Buried within the chamber, an intricate seismic monitoring system, christened Orogenesis, kept a vigilant watch over SCP-8987. It was ensconced within an isolated segment of the mine, separated by magnetically locked gates and an array of Scranton reality anchors. Access to this chamber was strictly controlled, only granted by the director of the site or the head of the geology department. Any attempt to procure samples from SCP-8987 was strictly forbidden. The silence of the mine was deceptive. Beneath its stillness, SCP-8987 was far from inert. Its branches, instead of leaves, sprouted small, angular crystalline structures, their white hue eerily luminescent in the dim light. While the crystals bore a superficial resemblance to hexagonal structures like quartz, a proper chemical analysis remained elusive due to their delicate nature. The origin of SCP-8987's activation events was a mystery. They were surges of localized reality failure, triggered when significant vibrations resonated within the anomaly's crystalline leaves. The destabilization of local reality led to the manifestation of inexplicable phenomena, their nature unpredictable and inconsistent. During these activation events, SCP-8987 would seemingly bleed, releasing a sap-like red liquid that flowed down the tree and along its roots. Over time, this fluid would solidify, fostering the theory of SCP-8987's growth. The cessation of mining activities had reduced these phenomena, but the echoes of past disturbances lingered on. Despite its lifeless facade, SCP-8987 held a dreadful potency within. The petrified wood that composed its structure was an unparalleled vessel for ontokinetic energy, a conduit for the unexplainable forces that fueled its activation events. As the personnel maintained their vigil, the scars of the ceaseless mining operation served as a reminder of the tree's silent expansion throughout the mine, a chilling testimony to the reckless encroachment of man on unfathomable forces of nature. The mine held a profound secret, a parable of nature's defiant stand against human hubris. As the personnel watched over the silent sentinel, they were reminded of one painful truth. SCP-8987 was not alive, and yet it held the power to shake reality to its core. The destabilization of reality seeped through the veins of the earth itself, spreading like a poison through the capillaries of the roots below. This was not a subtle shift, not a mere bending of the borders of the natural world. It was a cataclysm, a seismic event shaking the very foundation of Red Brook Mine, blurring the line between the feasible and the impossible. Julian Eden, the director of Site 898 and a veteran of countless such abnormalities, drafted the Runs Red procedure to grapple with such extraordinary changes. The procedure was a desperate handhold in the chaos of an incomprehensible universe. It was a classification, a code red, ringing an alarm that echoed throughout the depths of the facility. Anomalies were not just to be dealt with, but handled with the utmost care and precision, each case an unpredictable puzzle box of potential destruction or epiphany. If SCP-8987, the source of these reality-warping events, were to activate, a rigorous set of actions would be triggered. The Runs Red procedure began with a vigil, with every member of the staff holding their breath in anticipation as seismologists worked to confirm the dread hypothesis. The air would thicken with tension, eyes flicking between instruments, pulses quickening with each passing second. Once confirmation of the anomaly was received, Eden's task force, MTF Gamma 89, would spring into action. These were the experts, hardened operatives trained to face the inexplicable. They would plunge into the heart of the Red Brook mine, a journey into the labyrinthine darkness. The gate would be sealed behind them, its cold iron weight a promise of isolation. Those who remained behind would wait, hearts pounding in their chests, praying for the swift conclusion of the procedure. The task force would proceed, their singular focus the location of the anomaly. They moved as one, bound by trust and shared experience. Tendrils of fear and trepidation weaved through them as they followed the procedure's command. Do not split up. The anomaly's nature would then be assessed. An event, an object, an entity. This triage of the unknown could dictate the course of the entire operation, ushering disparate scenarios, each with its unique risks and opportunities. If the anomaly was an event, they would weather it, endure until the storm passed. If it was an object, they would study and contain it, their eyes alert for unseen dangers. If it was an entity, its sapience would decide its fate. The chance to communicate and negotiate, or an inevitable clash of wills, strength, and determination. The way to the containment wing was hidden beneath the central building of Site-898, a secret path that brought them to the heart of the operation. The gate would be secured, precious cargo placed within the cold steel walls of a holding cell. With the anomaly contained, the waiting staff could finally exhale. The mine entrance would be unsealed, and life could resume in the shadow of the still, silent anomaly, waiting to be processed. The final step was a sacrifice of blood, a small, symbolic act to remind them of what they were protecting. A prick of a finger against a needle, a drop of red against a sterile environment. A reminder that beneath the steadfast control, beneath the science and containment, they were still human, still frail, still prone to bleed. This was the pact Julian Eden made with those under his care, to face the unknown, to challenge the improbable, to never let the brook run red with their blood. As they moved forward, each new anomaly in uncharted territory, his words echoed within the hollows of Red Brook Mine. Do not forget that. Do not grow comfortable up above and forget what is below. The story of SCP-8987, etched in memory and ink, served as a grim testament to the human spirit, a beacon against the encroaching darkness, a testament to the strength of the facility's personnel, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. And as the final page turned, the eerie silence of Site-898 was once again filled with the hum of alertness. The tale of SCP-8987 was far from over. The reality below, though tamed, was far from predictable. His time in the small town of Adamsville was finally coming to an end. After years of backbreaking work at Adams, Rowe and Norman Inc., a change was on the horizon. The thought of it stirred a mixture of emotions within him. Excitement for the unknown, yet a tinge of melancholy for the community he had become a part of. One evening, while clearing out his desk, he stumbled upon an old, frail file, which seemed to be forgotten by time. It was the miners.png, a sepia-toned photograph by Robert N. Dennis of a group of miners in the main tunnel of a vast coal mine in Pittsburgh. This public domain image was a haunting echo of his own career. The grimy faces of the miners a reflection of his own hardships. The next photograph was another relic of a forgotten era, the stoic face of an enigmatic foreman, M.F. Eby. The name itself held no particular significance, certainly not in the way the image did. The undefined author had skillfully captured the foreman's expression, a blend of stern resilience and desolate inevitability. An image named EmptyMine.png followed, a chilling view of the Orphan Girl Mine in Butte, Montana. The author was James St. John. It bore a Creative Commons Attribution 2.0 license, allowing it to become a spectral whisper of history, haunting cyberspace. The empty mine echoed the solitude he had felt deep within the bowels of the earth, surrounded by cold rock and the ever-present threat of collapse. Another image, Site-898.png, captured a scene from the U.S. Geological Survey. The author, David G. DeVries, had managed to capture a seemingly mundane scene of rock magnetic research with an air of uncanny significance. The tension was palpable in the carefully calibrated instruments, the Rubens coil control unit, and the spinner magnetometer, seemingly poised on the brink of some momentous discovery. A glittering image of a massive quartz crystal.png, lay next in the pile. It was a masterpiece of natural beauty, captured under the lens of Tuxeso, under a CC by SA 4.0 license. Its blinding brilliance was a stark contrast to the gloom of the mine, a beacon of hope amidst the bleak reality of his past life. The next images were not standalone, but composite. a montage of natural elements that formed a symphony of frozen beauty. Dino Draws, the author under a CC by SA 3.0 license, had combined an image of snow-covered tree branches with a strange cave floor speleothem, creating a contrast between the serenity of a winter's day and the alien patterns of stalagmites forming on the cave floor. The following composite image combined a cavernous interior with the stark silhouette of a dead tree, a juxtaposition of life and death, hope and despair. The eerie beauty of the cave interior, captured by Silas, was marred by the bleak starkness of the dead tree, a testament to the indifferent cruelty of nature, shot by Keith Evans. Lastly, he found a series of scanned images, the handwriting of unknown individuals scrawled across each image. Each note was a cryptic clue, a piece of a larger puzzle. The authors were a mix of Dino Draws, Moosenjeans, and handwriting courtesy of Talia, and at Moose_Goosey_2, under a CC by SA 3.0 license. He found himself drawn into their web of cryptic messages, feeling a strange sense of connection to the unknown authors. The collection of images, each a testament to the past, served as a mirror reflecting his own journey. As he prepared to embark on his new journey, he realized that his past would always be a part of him, a chapter in the book of his life that would continue to shape his future.